that we're
Yay Networks.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy! Hey, happy Wednesday, great girlfriends. I hope you're having a marvelous day and feeling super inspired and empowered wherever you are. I want to thank you for tuning into the podcast today. I am so excited because my friend in my head turned now great girlfriend, Cate Luzio, is the guest today. I had the privilege of sitting down with Cate at her Girl Power headquarters in New York City, Luminary, which was such a fun conversation about all things how she turned her banking career into a career in community building for women, how she has become an advocate for women, and how she leads from within. And it's super exciting to have had the experience at her headquarters. I want to give you a little bit of Cate's bio, and I also want to let you know that, of course, in any live recording, there is some feedback, maybe some screeching, perhaps some icky noises that could come from the microphones. Do not be alarmed. Do not stop playing. Keep listening in, keep getting the content. It is so important. And I do apologize for any sound effects that are not pleasing to your ear, but I did not want to leave this podcast outside of the airwaves. I wanted to make sure you had access to this conversation. So having said all of that, here's a little bit about Cate Luzio. Cate Luzio spent 2 decades in financial services leading global multi-billion-dollar businesses. During this time, she also led many of the institution's women's networks and saw the disproportionate number of men to women and women of color in the senior ranks. She recognized the problem was a lack of investment and development of talent in the female pipeline, rather than a lack of talent itself. This observation sparked a new direction for Cate Luzio's own trajectory. In a sharp career pivot, she wrote a business plan and set out on a new mission to help women see a path toward advancement by arming them with the tools, resources, and community to propel them to the top, regardless of their professional journey. In 2018, she launched and self-funded Luminary, a membership-based career and personal growth platform and collaboration hub created to address the systemic challenges impacting women across all industries and sectors. Luminary is the ultimate career advocate, uplifting and upscaling women through all phases of their professional journey, in the workforce, entrepreneurship, and in transition, by providing a vast ecosystem of expert-led thought leadership programs, as well as in-person and virtual workshops and events. Members are comprised of multi-generational and intersectional community of entrepreneurs, comprised of entrepreneurs, corporations, and organizations, including UBS, WW, JPMorgan Chase, Unilever, Verizon, Goldman Sachs, Mastercard, and Heidrick Struggles. Prior to Luminary, Cate was global head of multinational corporate banking for HSBC, managing more than 2,000 employees worldwide. And prior to that, she served as head of multinational corporate banking at JPMorgan, EMEA, based in London. She spent her early years in Latin America with Bank of America across both consumer and wholesale banking. She started her career working in tech in China. Cate was named to American Banker's Most Powerful Women in Banking list multiple years in a row, is a 3-time Financial Times Global Diversity Champion, and a 2-time Yahoo Finance Diversity Hero. Cate remains committed to leveraging her extensive corporate experience to support and encourage women and push for gender equality and pay parity in the workplace. Please enjoy this very intimate and powerful conversation between myself and Cate Luzio.
We're so excited to be here together in celebration of Women's History Month. Yes, so shout out. Come on, let's and let's celebrate the past, let's celebrate the present with us, right? So let's wrap it up for us. Wait a minute. For you, right? And the future, which is also us. So let's think of what is happening for us. That was so sloppy. That was like not even a decent clap for your future. So excited. celebrating all this, because we don't just work for nothing, right? We're all working towards a bigger, brighter quality of life, not just for ourselves, but for all of those that are tied to our name. So we want to celebrate all of that. And I thought it'd be so fitting to have this conversation with one of the brightest lights, Ms. Cate Luzio.
It's kind of weird to be on the other side right now here at Luminary. So, and I love it. You might replace me.
No, I'm just gonna like add the sauce, like add some more sauce to it and build it up. I'm here to celebrate because, so what Cate doesn't know, what you all don't know is I stalked her. It was a good virtual stalk. I stalked you all of 2018, and I emailed Luminary, hey, just kind of poking around, trying to see what was going on and hear some things. And life got busy for me, and I didn't get close enough. And I was like, who was that asked me about mentorship? Do you name them or do they have to? Okay, so I stalked, right? And so you might want to say, it's okay to stalk. It's not, don't get aggressive, but like, do pay.
Maybe stalker.
Right. You know, I did a bit of aggressive observation.
Right.
Okay. I kept eyes on Cate and what was happening at Luminary. And I just thought it was so special and different from what I was seeing at other places and spaces. There was an authenticity that was like threaded into the things that were being said, the conversations, the curated, the activities, so then I got on LinkedIn because this is pre-LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn is like a full showcase. Right. This is like early, LinkedIn wasn't still like what it is now. Right. I just, did a little aggressive observation, right? That's what we do when we like stop. And I decided that I would meet her. And I didn't know how. I was like, I'm gonna meet her. I'm gonna actually have her at the conference. That's the way in. Everyone likes to speak. And I really think she is someone that women need to know. So that was my end. I said, I need her at the conference. I hit the first year. I don't know if I got an email back. I said, that's okay. We do it every year. She's coming. And sure enough, we were able to get her at the Great Girlfriends Conference in 2021. And I was like doing sort of glitzy eyes, trying to be cool, yes, be cool. But I was like, okay. And everything about Cate is authentic and honest and real. And she is just so, Cate, you're so passionate about women, and it's so evident in the way that you move and your desire to just plug us in. So I thought it would be great for me to bring to the Great Girlfriends community more stories such as Cate's, because it's not every day that you see a woman build a business here in New York City. Okay, right? We all know that that's complex, and then to get into brick and mortar space and then create community around it and then ask for people to align on vision and support the space and then bring funding and opportunities to those spaces. That's not every day. So when you do have someone who is literally a luminary, literally bringing light and wattage to the world that we live in, I think it's important to celebrate that.
I'm very glad we're reporting this.
It doesn't matter what you did last night. What you did today, okay? So that's what we're talking about. So is that cool that we just have a little deep dive into how Cate did and does what she does and will do what she does in the future and all the gritty that we're trying to figure out along the way? Yes. Okay.
Can I just say one thing? So when I got asked to be, and I think Ramona, it was you got the original email around Great Girl or Sarah, and they were like, yeah, this I remember you talking to you, I was driving, and you're like, Great Girlfriends. Oh, what is it? Going on and on. And then when I walked in the room, it was like on fire. Danny was there, Sarah was there, Christine spent a little time there. And it was just the energy, and I will just say selfishly, the unbelievable fashion of all of the attendees. It was like the first time people were coming, and then Omicron happened. You got lucky, right? Because and it was amazing, the energy, just listening to all these incredible women, and you, of course. And then that panel that we were on led me to create connections with Tiffany.
Yes.
We had her. We're working on Brandeis.
Yeah.
And so many others. And it was just an amazing sort of extension of whatever you do every day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. So that's my mission. My mission and passion is to continue to build bridges for women everywhere I go, and to make sure that we are always seen and heard for who we really are. Like so powerful, so passionate, so connected, so driven. These are the things that we are. We make the world go round, and I don't want men to get credit for that. I want us to get credit for our ability too. So Kate, because you were a driving force in what's considered a man's world in finance for so long. And I know, I looked in the glam room. Have you all been in the glam room? We spent time there. So the words were bitch, emotional, aggressive, cold. I think irrational was one of the intense. Those words were all attached to what we know to be driven, strategic, passionate, all the good things. But in those worlds, we are often told that we're less than, or that we are going too hard, too bold if we're standing up for what we know is right. How did you endure those aggressive years?
Well, my team would say those aggressive years aren't over. And they never will. So I really, early on in my career, and I was having this conversation this morning, I was told, you're way too aggressive, you have sharp elbows, you're too emotional, you're too tough. And some of those things were definitely true, right? And I had to learn, especially in those early years of banking, sort of how to temper I had to understand who was in the room and know my audience. But I also had a mentor, a white straight male, who said to me, some of those things aren't bad things. It's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to be super assertive. It's okay to be tough. And you should embrace them versus try to change them. Just always know who's in the room. And then you adjust. And anyone in my life, whether it's work, personal, there's no difference in Kate's. Yeah. I don't have a work Kate and a personal Kate. Yeah. And if Myers-Briggs would show you that every time I've taken it, that's just who I am. I grew up that way. I have two brothers. And I say this, my team's probably heard this. I wasn't raised as a girl. I was raised as a competitor. Mm-hmm. And you compete, you work really hard, you keep working hard, you keep competing. And it wasn't meant to be like, I'm competing against the next person and I have to push them out of the way. But you don't get to where you are by just doing the bare minimum. You've got to go all in. And so that's how I survived. And then over the years, you have to develop a really thick skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in that thick skin development, what in those three words, there's like a lot of rugged observation, there's critiques, there's constructive criticism, and there's negative, there's feedback, there's times where you are told that you're not enough. And talk about some of thick skin development that we tend to run from, because a lot of times how many of us feel so uncomfortable in the thick skin development time that we're just like, never mind, maybe it's too much. Yeah. Right.
So I'll share two quick. When I started in banking, I didn't start my career in banking. I was in nonprofit, then tech, and then I got recruited into the banking world, which I had no business really being in because I didn't have a finance background, no accounting. I never took a business course in undergrad or my master's degree. I was a master's of international relations. Anyway, when I got to the first bank that I worked at, that I was recruited to, I had a woman that was supposed to be a mentor. And my team knows this. I don't wear low-cut things. I'm just not comfortable in my skin in that way, even at almost 47. And I had a shirt on, and I did this amazing presentation. I knocked it out of the fucking park in front of like 300 people in the company. And I get off the stage, and I'm so pumped. And she goes, "That shirt is a little low-cut." There was first of all, it wasn't low cut, but even if she thought that wasn't what she should have started with, right? She should have started with I think you did a great job. Let's work on other things. And I learned from that moment on, like from her, she was not going to be my advocate. There was an insecurity there. I don't know where it came from, but park her to the side. I wasn't going to try to win her over. There was just a lot of mixed signals. And while she should have been building me up in that moment, she immediately tore me down. Second is in that same, I was part of a global development program, which was I would say they called us an elite group. And my manager, who when I came in, loved me the first couple of weeks. Like, she's a go-getter, she's this, and then, oh, she's a go-getter. She's really gonna work hard and she's gonna outshine me. And so our group, which was mainly men, and there was one other woman, every time we would go into a room where they would like parade us around because we were this elite group, he would say, look at how amazing this group is. They all had MBAs from Wharton and Stanford and except for Kate.
Okay.
And I had a master's degree in international relations from Georgetown. Like,
Wow.
what?
Yeah.
But I had no voice. And how am I going to sit there in front of the board and say, but I have a master's degree from Georgetown? I just let it slide, and it wasn't, it really, he beat me up over and over and over to the point where in year one, I almost quit. And there was a guy on my team, Peter Wallace, and we still are friends today. I used to drive him to work. His wife was a working mom, and they have kids, and they only had one car. So I drove him to work, and he came to my house, he knocked on my door, and I said, I'm done. And he said, no, you're the glue of the team, and we're here around you. And if you leave, we fall apart. And you may not think that we don't see what he does to you every day. We do. And so we may not stand up for you because it was a really political organization, but we're here. And just that conversation for me, someone even just recognizing it, a white man who's had all of the privilege in the world. He was in the Navy, he was in the Naval Academy, and for him to come to my house and say that. So I said, fuck it, I'm sticking it out.
Yeah.
And then when I got my job to move on within the organization, they had these big glass offices and everyone could see. And I went in for like my exit before I moved on, and the guy's name was Bob, my manager. And he said, well, here's our exit interview, and I'm gonna give you a bunch of feedback. I said, actually, no. This company says we do 360. I've never been able to give you feedback. So, and it was like everyone watched from a fishbowl. Like, what's happening in there? Because I was so animated and you know, I said, what did I say? It was all very appropriate and very aggressive. And I walked out, and I hope I never see that person again. I know where he still works. He still works at the same place. And I often say how great managers are. I learned so much from him because I learned how not to be a manager like him. So the thick skin, those were great examples in those early days. And I was like, I'm not going to let anyone run me out of a job.
Yeah.
Come on, One, we feel invisible when we're going through those. So anyone ever felt that invisibility where you're like, does anybody see what's going on with me? And Peter really came and sort of rescued you from feeling like.
Peter ended up working for me later in our career.
Come on, I like that turnaround. I love that. But oftentimes you feel invisible and you feel underrepresented and you actually feel like you see this, why don't you support me?
Right.
And what is happening here. But a lot of times we're meant to travel a road alone because it's meant for us to groom and develop and nurture or whatever the thing is that we're preparing for, which, I mean, we're sitting in quite a, come on. We're sitting in quite an experience to be here in your own building, at your own company, doing so many amazing things and advocating. So we learned what you didn't want to be. And that helped to frame who you are today.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be, what were some of those?
I didn't want to be a dick.
Okay, a dick. You don't want to be okay.
I wanted to be a strong leader. I wanted to be tough. I wanted to build great businesses, but I wanted to do that where I saw the human side of being a manager. And I hope my team can attest to that. I wanted to emulate leaders that I thought were super smart, that didn't have the same background as everyone else. And I felt that it was great to be able to prove myself. In those early years of banking, as a banker, in the finance industry, it used to be, and it still is a little, like you have to work as many hours as really your boss thinks you should work. And I hated that because I was like, why should I work just to sit at my desk if I've already completed what I had to do?
Yeah.
And these guys would sit around and they're like, you're leaving? It's 9 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, it's 9 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
and I was young, so, and they would just be like, I'm like, how many times can you revise your PowerPoint? Like, you either know it or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that those were the things that I really sort of leaned into, and not to, I'm not a big fan of the lean in, but like just really leaned into embrace like that's what I wanted to be. I also wanted to be a fantastic people manager, because you can have a great business, you could make a ton of money for another company, but if you're not a good people manager, and one of the things I learned at Bank of America when I got there was they really focused on the what and the how. The what was the results, right? Like, and I, as a banker, you got to make money for the company. That is your only job.
Yeah.
Well, what were your results? How much money did you make? How many new clients? All that. But they really emphasize, but how did you do it? So if I did it alone, I'm dinged, because why? That's great, you brought money in, but if you push Danny out of the way and you push Rolana out of the way and Precious, and when I say push out of the way, that means I don't recognize them. You don't do anything alone in this world, nothing, right? It's teamwork, even though I had product partners. So Bank of America really stressed that, and that is sunk in. So I think those were some of those early lessons around why did I want to be a people manager, and I really wanted to develop talent. I mean, I'll say one of our employees just resigned after a couple of years with us, and your immediate reaction as a manager could be, how dare you? Like, why would you want to leave? But the first thing you should ask is, what's the opportunity? Are you excited? Are you going to make more money? Are you going to have a bigger opportunity? Then I want to be happy for you, right? Because that's the whole point of managing people. Now, many companies will say, counteroffer, counteroffer, counteroffer. Sure, you can do that, and it makes sense in some situations, but the reality is when you see someone that wants to take the next step, the best thing that you could do is support them.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much because most of the time when we're making a career move, so many women, I saw this in a study, Harvard study was talking about women don't want to let down their teams.
Yeah.
Right? So women often feel like if I leave, I'm letting everyone down. And
Yes.
the company never says, if I fire you.
Right, absolutely.
But we tend to carry the weight of an entire organization, not even our own, on our shoulders, because we always want to deliver and show up and perform. And so what we're learning, I think what women have learned over the last, probably, I would say, last 10 years of empowerment, let's say, is that we can take that force, we can take all the capabilities that we have, the knowledge, the wherewithal, we see the team, we understand how the organization should move. We can take that and we can construct what we want to see. Because oftentimes we see it, but we're like, you know what, I only have this much power, I have fractional power, but I see 10,000% possibility. And so a lot of women start to migrate into the space and like, what if I take what I've learned, what I don't want, what I can see, and make more of that happen in the world and less of me hiding or holding back. And I feel like that part of your pivot was in seeing what you wanted to see out of this world, what you wanted to offer. The part you said about being human, we forget that we're humaning together. We're all having a human experience. And I think COVID really taught us just how human beings were, right? But prior to that, your pivot into creating a brand new space was what? Cate says one morning or one night.
So I was in the midst of making another move within financial services. And listen, at some point you get super senior, and then it just becomes, to be honest, about the money. And that's what you're chasing, and you're chasing the next title. I'm honest about that because especially in financial services, that is what is drilled into you, right? And I'm okay with that too, because I want to be very, 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 very wealthy. Right. Because I want to create generational wealth, and I want to give back, and I want to invest in the community, all of the things. And I don't have children, but I have 9 nieces and nephews, and I want them to have some of that too. So anyway, I had a conversation with a mentor and I told him that I was gonna make this move, and he was like, no. He's like, why? And he said this, and I remember it was at Pershing Square or one of the restaurants down by Red Central. He said, why? He's like, don't just trade one thing for another. And I said, that's easy for you to say. You've 10 or 12 years on me at least. You're super wealthy. You don't have to worry about anything. He said, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Because if you feel like you're not making the biggest impact that you possibly can, he said, look, I was at JPMorgan for 30 years and now I'm at Citizens Bank. And everyone said, you're leaving JPMorgan to go to Citizens Bank, a regional bank? He said, now look at what I'm getting to do. I get to build every day. I'm rebuilding this bank. I have control. I have impact. He's like, I'm 59 years old and I feel like I'm 25. So that's not what I wanted to do in a bank. And I didn't want to do it domestically. I had been an international banker for almost 20 years and I didn't want to do it domestically. I wanted a global role and they're few and far between. So long story short, 2 weeks later, I quit. Wow. And I said, everyone, as soon as I quit, it was all of the, and Heidrick is represented, so that's how I know Heidrick. As soon as I quit, it was all the recruiters were like, wait, what? And we don't have to help you buy out your stock. And I had negotiated a really good package. And so I said, no, I don't want to go do the same thing. Look at all the transferable skill sets I have, and you're only focused on the job I was doing. I managed a huge P&L. I managed thousands of people, global. Well, here's the banking job. And I said, this is the wrong way to look, particularly for women. We're always put in a box, right? I'm a lingerie designer, that's all you can ever be, right? I do events, that's all you can ever do. I work in nonprofit, that's it. And so I quit, and I'll tell you, for the next 6 weeks, it was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. Because I was like, what did I just do? Like, what? Huh? What happened? Yeah. Where's all that money? And then I was at a women's event, and I was like, these women don't even know how to connect. Everyone just hands out a business card. And then I called my boyfriend, who's still my boyfriend, and he was traveling, and I was talking about a million miles a minute, and he's like, write it down. And I'm like, write what down? And he's like, you have an idea, write it down. 2 weeks later, I had a business plan that was 55 pages long. Not that everyone needs a 55-page business plan, but I don't do anything, I go all in. Yeah. And then all of the other places that I had been talking to and interviewing, they called and I said, you know what, I'm starting my own company, so thank you very much, but I'm gonna pass. And it was like, no, you don't start your own company, you're 43 or whatever it was. And I'm like, you know, and I said, well, and the same mentor said to me, he's amazing, what's the worst that can happen? You may fail, and it's the likelihood that you fail is pretty high, because that's the world of startup and small business. But he said, if you are going to create a whole new set of skills that you will never have had without that, and you can always go back. And I used to say that to employees all the time when they were thinking about making the move, and I had never said that to myself. I had also never asked myself what I wanted to do in my life.
Wow.
Because as a Gen Xer,
yes, Jesus.
Here's the next thing. You do the next thing. You do the next thing. You get the next raise, and that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I say I thrive in a corporate environment, and that doesn't mean I never will go back to it. Yeah. But I had never asked myself, and so I credit my mentor a lot for just even making me think. And those 6 weeks, man, did I curse him, because I really was like, what did I do? And what's funny is I still get banking calls. Hey, could you do this on the side? I'm like, oh, would you ask a man to do that? Right. Hey, dude, you have your own company. You're running it. You've survived the pandemic. You're building a business. That's kind of like your hobby. Could you come run this business and do that on the side? It's like so insulting. Yeah. On the one hand, it's flattering. Like, like, you think I can do 2 jobs and I can be that good? I could be that good. But no, this is not a hobby.
Yeah. It is something that they take us lightly, right? And it's up to us to take ourselves seriously. Like, it's up to us to really understand and bring value to the things that we know are important. Because who else will if we don't? The question, what do I do with my life, or what do I want to do with my life, can be so disruptive. Anyone else been disrupted when when you get the answer and you're not sitting in it? And you're like, oh no, I'm nowhere near the answer to the question, and I have to make choices. And I think I want to just celebrate your mentor for reminding you that your skill sets were transferable. Because oftentimes we think we're just leaping into this space and everything we did in our past is null and void. You're still amazing, you're still brilliant, you still know how to manage projects, you still know how to, connect and build relationships, you still know how to articulate business plans or even develop them.
Right.
Relevant skills, right?
Absolutely.
So nothing's lost. I hope someone is encouraged by that. There is nothing lost in the pivot or the shift. Everything goes with you, except the check. That's very important to know. The check doesn't go with you. So a lot of your luminaries here tonight are curious to know how you established the relationships that were essential to building a foundation for such a great business and space. Because it feels, outside looking in, really, it feels like one of the greatest accomplishments to have a space in New York, one that's thriving, that's so beautiful, and sustainable. But I know that comes alongside building relationships and asking the right questions to the right people. So give us the sauce on that.
So I think, and I had this, for those of you that don't know Mindy Grossman, she's just announced a little while, she was the former CEO of WW, she's been Nike, she's a mentor of mine. And we just literally had this conversation today. I think a lot of it was I was a little naive. Not about building business, I know how to do that, I've done it, even with a big company running. Commercial real estate is no joke, right? And I walked into it like, what? I didn't know, I did a lot of research, I talked to tons of experts, and you talk about like building the relationships. The first thing I did, as soon as that business plan was written, was I went into my network. And said, does this work? Would you join this? What do you think of this idea? Don't be afraid to ask those questions, because most business owners don't want to hear, no, it's not going to work. And you just want to hear everyone say, it's amazing. I wanted to hear real feedback. Second was, I knew I wasn't going to fundraise. I knew I was going to self-fund the business, but I wanted to hear what investors would have to say. And so I called a bunch of my friends and said, hey, let me come pitch. I want to get this picked apart. Just from someone who has no interest. And that was a very eye-opening experience, right? A lot of them white men. And then as soon as they would give me the whole, I don't get it, I would say, what does your wife do? Oh, she's kind of thinking about her next step in her career. Should she start a business? And I'm like, where's the light bulb? And then they would go, oh, you help my wife. Can I introduce you to my wife? And then I called, I knew I needed a good team to start, right? You can't do this alone. And so I called my buddy who ran a marketing agency, because I have no idea what a marketer does. I'm a salesperson, very different. I called my friend who was in learning and leadership development and said, I know I want to do phenomenal programming. How do I build that? So can you help me think about what kind of person I need, and then help me write the job description, and then interview them? Nobody said no.
Wow.
They said, of course. Look, this is a few hours of my time and something hopefully incredible that you'll build. And I give them a ton of credit because, and then I found Erica, she's not here tonight, she had to get home to her baby. She was my first hire, and she was my COO, and she pitched me, right? I didn't even think about, what she could have done, and I will never let her leave. But that was the first part, was I needed to go into my network that I had cultivated for 20-something years and start asking for those favors, right?
Okay, did you catch that?
Yep.
Okay, right? So, hey, help me interview, help me write the job description. What's the comp for a role like this? I don't want to just Google it, right? So tell me the real deal. Also, maybe I didn't need all of this. I remember my business plan had like chief this, chief that, and then as you start to look at salaries, you're like, maybe it's not a chief, maybe it's a manager level. And then I started talking to companies, right? My former clients, the banks, saying, I think I don't want this to just be individuals. I want to work with companies. I want to really move the needle. And it was, Goldman was one of my first calls, and I didn't know Goldman very well. One of my former mentees was an intern. And she's like, I think that Goldman should know about this. And she made a random email, and then they jumped on the conversation. They were one of our first corporate partners. So listen, you're going to get a lot of no's. It's the same if you're raising money. It's the same if you're selling products, right? But you just got to keep going. And I love cultivating relationships. Anyone in sales, that's all you're doing.
Yeah. But can I say this too, Kate? I learned probably about 15 years ago in business. I was like, so we're all in sales. We're all in a constant state of representing ourselves and advocating for opportunities, whether you realize it or not. Even how we're sitting here today, someone's taking a look at how you're moving and what you're saying, and your response, your engagement, and they are considering you. Like, we're in a constant week, so we should never consider that there is a sales department.
Right. Yeah, I tapped in. We had this conversation.
We're all in sales, right? And especially as business owners, it's a constant state of advocacy. Like,
yeah, and if you're not, and if you're in corporate or you're a teacher or whatever you do, it's the same. Because if you're not advocating for yourself, you're getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And this is a big problem for women.
Yeah.
Because we keep saying, and listen, organizations, society has to pull, but we also got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And so much of that is about building a business case around you, your worth, your value, why you're an asset to the team, to the organization, to the company, to whatever you work with and work for. And it's the same when you're building your own company. You're always building relationships. The minute you stop, you get complacent, you're done.
That's right. Oh my goodness. Okay. Amen.
Yeah.
No, it's very true. Okay, so I want to rewind a bit because you self-funded, which, by the way, I just want to applaud that. And I know everyone who in here can't fully self-fund like Kate, but would like to still have funding. And so they're trying to figure out the investment part. Do we get a loan?
Yeah.
Do we get an investor? Where do you
Sorry,
start with that?
my pinky toe is
Let
like
it
numb.
loose, girl.
So I have to like go through my shoe.
Yeah. So do we
Yeah.
go after a loan? Do we go, after
Yeah.
investors? Do we try to get into an accelerator? Things that we're like questions that we're figuring out.
So there's a couple reasons why I didn't want to self-fund. One, my team knows this if you've heard my story before. I really wanted to have children. And as soon as I graduated from college, my dad's like, your first job, you better get a 401k and you better start saving for college because we paid for your college and that's the biggest gift we'll ever give you. I was like, oh my God. And I started saving, and I'm Gen Xer, so I'm a cash hoarder. And so thinking I'm gonna have all these kids, I gotta save all of my money to pay for their college. 5 rounds of IVF. Sorry, doctor says you can't have kids. Okay, get a divorce. That's gone out the window. And I know you can do it on your own, but that was just not my plan. So I had a nest egg. And I said, if I'm gonna use it on anything, I don't need more things to accumulate. So I have the privilege to do that. I think right now, there are so many unique ways to fundraise. I was just talking, she just left, but I fund women. So which is a rewards-based crowdfunding. Most people don't understand rewards-based versus just the GoFundMe. Rewards-based is you give me X money, I give you Y, right? And so that's one way. I had no idea what that was. When I was a banker, I knew what a traditional loan, I knew investor. I didn't want an investor because I didn't want someone telling me. Let me give you an example. When I pitched to all those investors, the fake pitch, they're like, oh, you have to have an application process. How are you going to keep people out? Like, that's not a fucking community.
Yeah.
I'm building a community. Like a church, you don't say, sorry, you can't come in.
Yeah.
So I knew right then, no, everyone said, in those first couple of months, you have to have an application. And I'm like, but that's a barrier. I'm trying to break down those. So I didn't want somebody telling me how fast I had to grow. that it was all about growth, and it was all about growth, right? I wanted to build something very sustainable and profitable, and I wanted to retain control. And so that was my route. I think with things like I Fund Women, with working with micro funds like Lift Fund and other micro lenders, there are a lot that their loans start at $500 to $50,000, right? I think everyone goes to, and we have great partners in Chase and all of these others. They ain't lending to you because you're too risky.
Yeah.
And they're held to regulations by the government of this country that they can't get around. So everyone blames banks. It's not always their fault.
Yeah.
They love to lend to you, right? And they love to be like, pay up. But they are under heavy restrictions. So we have to create a funnel and a pipeline for you to get your first loan, to then prove yourself, to get your second loan, to then get that big loan, to then get more loans, to then IPO, right? On the fundraising side, their I Fund Women is great for the reward space. Republic, equity crowdfund. So everyone thinks, oh, I've got to go raise a bunch of money. Equity crowdfunding is, I give a little sliver of my business. I have no idea. I don't know the Precious and Danny and Romana and Cece and Kelsey are even investors in my business because it's packaged up. There's another thing called an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. It's where you're going to say, I'm going to raise $100,000. So right now, I get pitched all the time, and someone says, the minimum ticket is $50,000. I'm like, nope. I'm running a business. But do you have a lower number? No, we only can do this because we're raising $1 million. The smart way, in my mind, particularly for women founders and people of color, is if you look at these special purpose vehicles, I can say, I'm going to raise $1 million, and I don't care if you're giving me $500 or $1,000. That builds up.
Yeah.
You also create a community.
That's so important.
As you're raising. So it's less about how much money am I going to get back in 2 years or 5 years. You're starting to create marketing, awareness, that they're excited to become even a $500 investor in the company. Oh, I'm an investor. Go buy from this company now. So I think we've got it wrong because of the media. I'm very vocal about this with the media, and some will say attacking them, but in the media's eyes, the one measure of success is how much you raise. That's a measure.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily a measure of success, because look at how many businesses fail that have raised millions and billions. Look at Theranos, my favorite. I mean, billions, billions, and those investors got nothing.
Wow.
She was the first self-made billionaire woman. We all cheered her. So there are lots of ways to do it, but you have to ask, right? If anyone comes to me and says, can you introduce me to JPMorgan? I'm like, they're not going to lend you because you have no financial statements. You're too young. You're too new. It's not their fault. But Lift Fund, there are 4 banks right now that are starting in the U.S. that are led and owned by women, that they are focused on small business, not bullshit small business. When I say small business, I mean small business. There's another bank I talked to, and they're like, yeah, we're focused on women-owned business, small business. I said, what's your minimum loan? $1 million. I said, that's not a small business. A small business is, I need 5,000, I need 10,000. The average loan women-owned businesses have in the United States is $33,000.
Right.
We need that to go up, but let's look at the funnel, the pipeline, let's build up. And I think there's a lot of short-sightedness.
Yeah.
Especially with the media.
Did we get that, ladies?
I'm very.
That was so great. You just gave a ton of advantage right now, because I think we as women, one, asking, who has trouble asking?
I do.
Oh my goodness. Let me just make a 75% of this percentage together have a problem with asking, but that's the biggest advantage. So the biggest advantage is your greatest disadvantage. You got to practice asking. And it can start within your circles. I know within, I'll say my personal circles, we do ask, like, hey, can you put eyes on this deck? I'm about to pitch this. What do you think? Or can we put together a fake session?
Yeah.
Rip me up, build me up and tear me down, like all in one. But don't be afraid to ask because that's where the advantages are. And I think I've learned along the way to ask up. You know, I think a lot of times we ask right here at the same level.
No way.
You know, ask up because that's where the advantage comes, the lift up comes. Ask up, ask up. And speaking of asking up, another question that came around was about sponsorship. How do we get our names spoken in rooms that we've not entered? And what are some of the ways that we and members of Luminary can learn how to get that representation when we ask up, or even if we don't have a chance to ask up, but we want our names spoken in rooms, want to be sponsored. How do we create that rapport with people to establish that?
This goes back to relationships, right?
Everything
goes back, whether it's mentors, sponsors, and it really, sponsors can be in a company, it can be outside of your building your business because you need sponsors to go pitch for you and say, hey, this is a great business, you should invest in it. This is a great business, come listen, so that they're, we're invested in introducing you to other investors or firms. My view is, in the old days it was, and poor Danny's heard me say this so many times, accomplishments speak for themselves. They don't speak for themselves. Your male white peers are all telling their bosses how great they are. They may be great. But they're saying it.
Yeah.
We sit there and go, well, I hope they notice me. I hope I get a sponsor. No. You've got to be very vocal about the value that you add, even in a very small room, right? I know what I do. I'm making you look good. I had a boss even at a very senior level, right before I left, so you'll know what company I worked at. And he said to me, I was the top performer in the entire leadership. My business was the fastest growing at HSBC. And he said, all these great things. And he said, but you go 100 miles an hour, we go 50. I said, no, you go 50. I'm going 100. I don't hear anyone complaining. Right. He wanted me to just get down. He was obviously not a sponsor, but I needed to make sure he knew that wasn't the right thing. And so for me, all those years in that male culture was making sure that people knew who I was around the table. Like, I'm not going to let you take credit for me. I'm also going to give credit to the people that work with me. I'm going to be a great stakeholder and partner. It goes back to the what and the how. How do I do it? I'm bringing Sybil along with me. I'm in that room and Sybil's my partner, but she doesn't have the opportunity. Hey, Sybil's not in here, but she's a phenomenal partner and this is what she brings to the table. Right there, even at a peer level, I sponsored you, right? Now someone in that room goes, oh, who's Sybil? I gotta find Sybil. Now they're gonna seek you out, right? So it's this whole ecosystem that can help. I will also say, don't keep your head down. But you've got to work really hard and you've got to deliver and you've got to keep delivering and you can't waver, right? And this goes back to, your results and your reputation and the relationships. The more relationships you have, the better chance you have for having sponsorship. My one story there, I was at JPMorgan and I had a woman boss. She was like the big boss and, she was moving on to roles, but she had always, even though she was based in New York, I was in London, she always kept her eyes on me. She would check in. So she was a sponsor. So 2 weeks later, after this announcement is made, I get a calendar invite for the new boss, the guy that was taking over. And I thought it was like a round table. So I show up in his office and here he is. He's, by the way, the mentor that I just talked about. And he goes, he's very, very old school white male banker. And he's like, so Melissa said you're a rock star and I should look after you. And I'm like, hello, I'm Cate Luzio. And I'm, he's like, no. I was like, why are you a rock star? He gave me the opportunity right there to self-advocate, promote the hell out of what I did, my business, everything that I was adding to JPMorgan at the time. From then on, he was hook, line, and sinker. Now, if I didn't perform, which rarely happened, but if I did something where I needed tough feedback, he was the first to give it to me.
It's so good.
And then he over time became a sponsor, right? But I think it goes back to, we can all be each other's sponsors, right? The more you bring up other people's names in those rooms, the more people get curious.
That's right.
I need to know who that person is. Why does she keep talking about Sybil? And I follow up. So Sybil was not in that room, but when I did my follow-up email about whatever I was presenting, FYI, Sybil was my partner in this, or you should know Sybil, or I'm happy to make an introduction. That's how we create sponsorship, and it's organic and it's not bullshit. And by the way, the best thing that you can do is make your sponsors look good.
That's right. Oh my goodness.
Because they want to go,
Yeah.
Precious is my girl,
Yeah.
right?
Right. That's
I look good.
Yeah.
Idiots that don't do that are so insecure. That was my boss that told me to go 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I can't work for someone like that.
Yeah.
There's no respect now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that good? So you give the sponsorship you want to receive.
Right.
So recognizing that everyone has the opportunity to open a door for someone else. And it's that advocacy, what you said, I'm gonna go back, rewind the tape. You talked about building community along the way. And so that's how you start to build the community, build the allyship, and create the rapport that you want with other people, and you offer it and you get it back in return. There's so much harvest in what you give, right? I think that
And that's Luminary.
that is Luminary. Oh my goodness. Okay, I know I can keep going, but I just want to ease into this because one of your luminaries wanted to know, okay, everyone talks about morning routine. What's your evening routine? What's your wind down? You can give us your morning if you want. But we
No,
wanna know.
I'm not, so at my times, I have my morning routine is I wake up, I look at my email, I read the news. The Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Daily Mail, and then I watch Squawk Box, because I am a banker, and I love the markets, right? At night, my days are very long, and so when I get home, I cannot work out at night, because I'm tired, and then I'm gonna be even more crappy. It really depends. If we have an event, that totally changes my night. I don't drink at night during the week, ever.
So we don't drink at night. Okay, but do we drink during the day?
No. People will go home and wind down with a glass of wine.
Oh, okay, that's good.
That's not part of my routine, where like some people come in and go, I have to have a drink. My boyfriend loves to come in and have a drink. I've never been like, I have to have a drink at night. That's not how I wind down. And then I'm gonna have a bad night's sleep.
Me too, actually.
Yeah, so I say that for the weekends, but I really don't think I have a routine, because as an entrepreneur, you're always working. So I get home and if I have dinner, and then I get back on the computer. Bad, but I do it because I have so many meetings during the day. I don't get to do work.
Right.
And I gotta get work done. My team knows, they're like, oh, what do you do this weekend? I'm like, well, I have 15 proposals to write, and then once those are out, and I have never had, I hate the word balance. I'm a worker. And I get so much out of work. Full disclosure, I have a throbbing migraine right now. Yeah, because I had a root canal on my tooth. So but I'm getting energy from the conversation, from the room, and it's hard for me to shut off. My poor boyfriend, right? He's like, it's funny, I got the nickname when I was living in Mexico and I worked for the first bank I did, the mosquito. Because people were like, she's always buzzing around. She's never not working. And it was like, kind of like, is that a good nickname? And mosquito, I'm like, I don't think that's good. And then when I was at JPMorgan, I was the Energizer Bunny. Because it was like, go, 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 go. And so that's just me. That's my father. That's my brothers. It's like, my mom's like, where does all this energy come from? So I don't really I wish I had a better routine, but then it wouldn't be me. And believe me, and Seven's back there, I have tried to have a routine. I have tried. I'm sort of like, well, what do I got in front of me? I gotta focus on that. And that's kind of my routine.
Well,
It's not a good one.
But if you're not you, then you're not.
Yeah, I
Right,
can't.
so then you're missing
Yeah,
out.
I've tried, I've tried yoga, I've tried meditation. Yeah, someone has to literally, like today, I went back in this fitness studio, which on Thursdays is our wellness studio, Vitamin and Wellness, and I'm like, I gotta lay down, I have this terrible migraine. And then Tracy, who's Seven's partner, was like, do you want some acupuncture? I'm like, no, I don't have time. And then I'm like, what? Wait, 20 minutes, I can do this. And she's like, yeah, Jan and Neil, and I felt a lot better. It's just somebody sometimes has to force me to do it. And that's okay. My boyfriend does force me. Oh, that's my wine now.
I love it. Okay, so any questions before I ask this last question I have? Any questions from anyone in the room?
I would like to know, what qualities does a woman like you who's ambitious need to identify as deal breakers when looking for a partner? Because you talked about your boyfriend a lot.
Oh, Danny.
Are we talking business partner or personal?
No,
Personal
partner.
Okay.
First of all, I can't really have a business partner. That's why I knew I could never have a co-founder, because Erica is as close as I can have as a co-founder without four persons. Because I don't stop.
Okay, and they would have to deal with the don't stop of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 2 failed marriages before my soulmate, Joe. And that's because I was looking for the wrong thing. I am ambitious. I'm always going to be ambitious. I'm always going to be aggressive. I'm always going to be driven. But I'm always going to give. And I'm going to give it 150% to my family, my friends, to whatever I'm doing. And if you're not there for that, if you're not on board with that, then I'm not the right person. The first marriage, it was like, I was very young, and it was, I love that you're career oriented. And I was like, well, wait, when are we gonna be not career oriented? Because I want to be young parents. And I was like, wait a second, what do you mean? We've already talked about this. That didn't work out, and that's okay. He found what he was looking for, and that wasn't me. And that was a hard thing to get over, but he wasn't the right person for me. The second one was a bit of a, I will still say, a rebound in that I was still reeling, even though it was a couple of years later from my first relationship ending, to, I just thought, this guy is good. He likes that I'm, rising the ranks in the bank. He happened to work with the same bank. It was when I surpassed him that everything changed.
Look at the faces.
And the thing was, if he had just looked at it as, this is a great opportunity, right? We're together. I don't care. I mean, I was like, come on, dude, work a little harder. But he didn't. He was not my biggest fan. He was not my biggest advocate. He didn't look at me and say, she's going for it in everything she does. She's going for the gold. And if she gets the silver, she's going to go back next year for the gold, right? That's what I missed. And I didn't realize that until we were sitting at a restaurant in Times Square. I had just gotten this big job at HSBC. And he said, you only got this because you're a woman.
And then you kicked them, and then what happened?
And then only a few months later, I was like, this is not for me. And he said, I got 7 good summers in Greece. But that was what, you really need someone that's going to be on the best days and the worst days that, I'm here for you. My boyfriend, who some of you know, so my father, I'm just like my father. Like, just like my father. I need more of my mother. She's like a saint. And Joe, over the years we've been together, will say, when I'm acting up, he'll say, okay, we need a little less Pat. That's my dad. And a little more Beth right now. And the first time he said that, I was like, who the fuck are you? And then he's like, I'm just gonna say it again, because right now you're really Beth. And you know what? Over time, obviously that was like the first time I was like, your tendency is to like come out and be like swinging. And And now it's our thing because that is my trigger that I am like over the line. Like I need to kind of dial it down, reel it back. I think a partner also is like in your darkest moments, not gonna necessarily, is not a fixer. You have to fix a lot of those yourself, but they've gotta be there. And whether it's you wanna scream at them, cry, go get drunk, go dance, that's the partner. And he is, I mean, Christine, you've known him, Kelsey, he's all the big moments, he stops by. And he still sends me yellow roses, which is not good. I don't like yellow roses. But he's very symbolic in that it's luminary. And now it's a joke, because when the team knows, they're like, oh, you got yellow roses. Like, wait a minute, Mark. But it's our thing, and I think I never had that. I never respected my partner as much as I respect Joe, and I don't think I ever had respect. And I think that's the thing that I love. He's my best friend. And listen, I have baggage. She has a lot of baggage, and that's what I look for. And it took me 40 years to get that, right? So I think for me, it just happened later.
Yeah. You had a question? Precious?
I had a comment, but I just got caught in the moment with you and Joe.
You always can make a comment.
I just have to say, well, hey everybody, I'm Precious Williams, proud founder and CEO of Perfect Fixes by Precious. She knew. So two things. When you talked about, starting Luminary and working on a business plan and things like that, and building a community, you know how you and I first met.
Yeah.
And when I say that you were there in my darkness and you're there in my light. Now that it's We Are Luminary, come sit at the table. I'm here. Like when I came in, I couldn't believe we were talking to me. Like I'm in darkness. And to hear your story, I didn't even know all of this before. It's been amazing. And now I brought my friends in. Some of them are in those different programs, and I'm because this is the type of community we need to be in. I've been in other groups and it just didn't work out. And to walk around and see my friends and see all these wonderful queens is amazing. And today, my girl Precious, because this is the Precious and Precious show, my friend reminded me of something. So when I was coming out of darkness, I had this dream of what I was going to do with my business. So we're upstairs and we're talking, and she's just like, she just dropped some little tea on me, and I'm looking at her like, that's true, I forgot. She's like, but I didn't, because she knows who I am. But we wouldn't have had this if the Luminary wasn't here. We can sit and talk, and we can talk about business. The second thing I want to bring up is there's a queen in this room. I'm not going to put her on blast. But I was downstairs, I saw the food. Y'all know how your girl is. And I'm sitting there, and the guy comes around the corner. He's like, oh, you can have it. I was like, yeah, I was going to ask. Really? I don't know if I was. And Queen comes down. She's a staff member here at Luminary, another queen. And as I was leaving, she turned around and said, we talk about you. And I said, really? What do you say? She said, you make everyone feel special in your presence. And I can't tell y'all, when I walked out of darkness, that I prayed that I would be a light to someone else as I was coming out. And so, Cate, going from Luminary to we are Luminary. There is some of everybody in this space and in this place, and we all want to be better. And had this space not been here, I don't know what we would all be. So to sit here and listen to your story, I feel like a great girlfriend too. You are. So I just want to say thank you, because you brought me and my friends together. You brought me and these other queens together. And so I'm gonna rock with you till the wheels fall off.
Yes. Let's talk about your girls.
Yes.
What do y'all do on the weekends? Like, what's happening? Who's queen of the group text? What's going on in the group text? Everyone has a power in group text going.
Yes.
Don't need several. I got a few happening. People look around. So, go talk about group text.
So most of my friends have kids, right? So their lives are very different than mine. And, but I have like my friends from college, my friends from banking, so like all these little, and then my founder friends. But one constant that I can, and it's never about business, is my best friend, Chris. I met her through my first marriage, and I always say the best thing that came out of that marriage was my friendship with her. We could text all day long about fashion. Like if you looked at our text, it's the longest running text in the history of text. And it's all about, hey, look, I got this ring. Hey, I like this. Hey, I like that. That for me, that's my routine. I need to get out of Luminary business Kate, as Joe likes to say, business Kate. He's like, okay, business Kate, go away today. Like you need to, where's fun Kate? But that for some people, we don't have like her husband always says, you guys don't talk about deep shit on text. I'm like, that's our relationship. We can talk about anything and nothing, and so much of it is just she's a mom. She's got her own thing. I can't relate to that. She can't relate to what I'm doing. Right. But if I need her, she's there. And then my girlfriends from college, you know, I have like 3 separate groups from college that they don't meet. It's kind of weird. I mean, I've tried, but you know, and we just have these kind of running conversations. And if it's 6 months that goes by, 6 months. If it's one night, if it's I hate my husband or my boyfriend or my dog is driving me nuts or whatever it is, you need that, right? And then I think on like especially the like the women that I've surrounded myself by during being on this journey are so incredibly important, because I can text and be like, I'm done with this shit. It's too hard. I want out. I'm going back to corporate. And then they're like, no, you're not. And then why would you? And it's like, oh, and then by the time they've talked me off the ledge, or my friend Michelle, we had so many conversations before she sold her company, crying about what she should do. And you just listen, and then you build each other back up. And that, somebody asked me the other day, when you started Luminary, did every one of your friends join? I'm like, no. If you're building your business thinking your friends are all gonna buy from you, that's not happening. I can count on one hand, literally, how many of my like good friends joined. A lot of them. I don't live in New York. I'm like, we're global now. But having digital membership, I don't care about that. Right? They're my friends. Like, but you have to build, you know, different kinds of relationships. You have to pull on relationships where you need them. No one person is going to be everything. And so that's really how I get through. And some days it's going to be, they're not going to hear from me, and it's going to be great. I saw iFund Women. When I started the company, they were really helpful. And she's like, "You're crushing it." I said, "I hate that term." Because that's what it looks like on social media, and it's hard. Oh, and so just say, you know, it looks like you're doing a great job, but how you feeling? Today, I might feel like I'm crushing it. Last night, I might feel like, oh, what am I doing? Right? So I think we've gotta also, no matter what you do in your career, your life, your mom, caregiver, you really just gotta lean on people. And I didn't learn that for a long time. Now it's like, I need those words. And a lot of that's my mom. My poor mom. When I was building this, the 9 months it took me to build this, she probably was so tired of getting calls from me. Because 10 times a day, I would be like, I love this, I hate this, oh my God, what are they doing? Crying, slapping, crying, more crying. My poor mom just went through it all, right? But finally, she was able to understand what I was doing. Because as a banker, she was like, what do you do? Bless you. So I just think that you have to know, and also you have to know when to let relationships or friendships that aren't really friendships go. And I learned that in COVID. And had to kind of, and you know when those come back, they come back, but they weren't additive in my life, some of those. And that's okay.
You know, you said something that reminded me, we can't assume that people are like we left them. A lot of times, oh, she was good last text. So check-in, a fresh check-in that says, so how are you today? Like in this hour, actually. Because like you said with entrepreneurship, there's other roles, let me just not say entrepreneurship, let me just say life. Life, the roller coaster is real, and we're all constantly getting intercepted by something different or various in our lives. It's important to do that check-in, how are you now?
Yeah.
And if we don't fit now, that's okay, right? Let it be okay, don't let it be the end of the world, let it be, this is just for now. And if there's a return, cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Top 3 do's in life. Do.
Ooh, take as many risks as possible.
Okay.
Travel as much as
Yes.
possible. Love as much as possible.
Yeah.
When you think about, like, I have 2 very different brothers. I love them in their own ways. I love my parents. I have these incredible nieces and nephews. I have godchildren. I don't want to be just the Luminary founder. I want to be the best aunt. I want to be the best sister. I want to be the best daughter. I want to be the great friend. I want to be someone people can lean on. So when I think of love, I just truly think of I think of my mom. I mean, she loves with 0 condition. It is unbelievable to me how she does it every day. She likes to call herself Pollyanna because she always sees the good. You could be like, Mom, I just murdered someone. And she'll go, but there had to be a reason. Right? So I think love is like so much of that. And then if you're not getting love and you're not giving love, then get out of that relationship. Right? To Danny's earlier question, like I get so much love out of my friendships, out of my family. And if this 2 years taught us anything, it's like, man, you get one shot at all this.
Right.
I mean, Eminem was right?
Oh my God. Totally don't.
Don't second guess. Don't say you're sorry too much.
Yeah.
Kelsey. No, but that's right. Promise to Kelsey. Don't forget to say thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Or don't put life on hold.
Don't put life on hold.
Don't put life on hold. Kate, I love it. I love you so much.
Love you
I'm
too.
so grateful.
Sorry, my energy's low.
This is low. Oh my God. I can't imagine. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you for pressing my business through the migraine. Yeah.
No, are you kidding? I was so excited, and I was like, Sybil's coming up. There is an event upstairs, but people can still go to glass ceiling, no?
The outside is open?
Yeah, but
the main is.
But it's still open, but it's not open, meaning there's covering.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so if you want to go have cocktails, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, let's see.
And thank you everyone for coming. I know some of my team's here, they probably heard a lot of these stories, but thank you. And maybe not in as great detail. But they definitely heard like that sex. And you're just amazing, right?
Yes.
We were meant to be.
I know. Listen, that aggressive, aggressive observation.
Yes.
It pays off. So
Yes.
don't ever discount aggressive observation. Go for it and ask us. You never know what happens. Right?
Absolutely. Yay. Thank you.
All right, great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends, follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends, and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.